Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Prickrell. I am one of the co-founders at Career.pm. And today I am going to be talking with Timo Wagenblatt, product leader at SAP, about leadership in general, about transitioning to a leadership position from a product perspective. Timo's got some really great experience there, and I'm sure a lot of insights. So if it's all right, Timo, I would just jump right in. And I would ask you, can you tell us a little bit, what is kind of the story around how you went from being a product manager, which is already a leadership position, to really a formal leadership position where, there was suddenly a new set of expectations, probably people to manage, that kind of thing. Can you tell us about what triggered that, what the transition was like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, the transition has been from being successful with my product and the approach how I did product management there, looking really not just at the relationship between like the product management team and engineering, but I've basically looked at the product always holistically. The product being the full experience to me. And my manager at this days liked this approach. She liked also that we were pretty successful with the product and the way we do it. And then she basically said, Timo, let's scale this. And she made me as a manager of actually right away 10 product managers,
Wow.
which was quite a stretch. The good thing is it wasn't the first time I was managing people.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was the first time at SAP. Now this was the way how I transitioned into it, and there's lots of interesting things being in this new position there.
Yeah. Can what were the biggest surprises? Were there things that were expected of you or things that happened that you hadn't really thought about?
Yeah, first of all, I think before being the product manager, it was my product, it was my thing, my industry, my domain. I did just know everything about it. And then was basically a product manager where I suddenly had no domain knowledge at all. So I was leader of product managers, and whatever their product did, I did not even know what the words mean in terms of, I didn't know what the product is.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't help them in solving the problem they have to solve in terms of the domain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, my approach has been basically then to be a product management coach for them and help them in working and maybe be more efficient in leading the product team. So the biggest surprise basically as well has been that 10 people, 10 different approaches, besides all working for SAP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
All
that
different
is,
skills, all different strengths.
yeah. And that really is coaching in like its traditional form, like you see basketball coaches sometimes who are like short, out of shape guys. Obviously, they can't go out and play. They can't play the game necessarily, certainly at that level, but they can help, people develop themselves and perform. So I think that's cool. So, I guess the insight there is that a great leader is probably also a great coach. It's not so much about what you do, it's about enabling other folks to do what they do well.
That's actually what I really think that a product leader really has to look into. You cannot be, in my view, um, and this is, I think, the main part of the transition. You're no longer the product manager. You have to think about more on the organization and things like shaping the product management role and shaping the organization and shaping and helping that the organization and the processes and the success metrics help the team and the products. That's more of the purpose, in my view, of a leader than making the product decisions in detail.
Makes sense. So it really isn't a matter of just doing more of what you've been doing historically. There's a whole new set of considerations, a whole new set of things like, building the right org and all those kinds of things that people need to prepare themselves, I would guess, ideally before they get that that opportunity is to have some preparation and be aware of those things.
Yeah, actually, just to build on that, Greg. So the main thing as well is if product managers in my team come to me and say, I want to be a product leader, I basically ask them, what really do you want to be? Do you want to increase the scope of your responsibility as a product manager?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to be a manager of product managers? But this means you likely will give up lots of the work you currently enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a
Yeah.
decision you have to make somehow.
Yeah. I think in a lot of disciplines, engineering as well, you get to a point in your career that you either kind of take on people management responsibilities or you take on broader responsibility, maybe like a portfolio of products or something like that. And yeah, I guess it's good to understand what it means to manage people because there can be, it's not easy, right? There are some very tough things that you have to do as a people manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at people, you talked about people that are working for you that come to you and say they want to be a leader. What are some of the indicators? Like, I'm assuming you can look at some people and you already have an intuition that this person would make a good leader. What kind of characteristics do you see in an individual contributor that make you think, hey, this person probably has the right stuff to go into, a leadership position, maybe a people management position?
Yeah. So in my view, first of all, you have to like people, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
to like people because you want to, as a leader, in my view, you want to help the people. Want to help your team to be more successful. So a leader, in my view, who would like to be a manager of product managers should have these traits and also should not just be willing, but also proactively in the current role help others to be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the guy who, if you get a question, your answer is, no, I'm too focused on my product, go away, likely you will not be a leader next week.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to like others and you have also to see or to, you have to have the ability as well to motivate others and take them with you if you have a certain view on the process or on an approach.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is another trait that would likely indicate that you could move on as a leader.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of uncovered a couple of paths to becoming a leader. One is you're selected, you're kind of identified, and leadership approaches you. The other one is going to leadership and saying, hey, I would like to be a manager. Do you have any advice for people on how they should approach talking with their leadership, their management about their desire to move into a leadership position?
I think the first thing is really indicated to your leadership that you would like to move on in terms of a management position. Because then leaders can help you, especially like in big organizations like SAP, there is then a full set of trainings as well available that will help you become leader. And to as PMs, we have a training that it is called Leading Without Authority. That's good
Mm-hmm.
for PMs. Now you need something different because even if you are like try to be a coach and you want to help and you practice servant leadership, still mentally for many people, you are the leader. Therefore, you have to be different. But back to your question. So first thing, really articulate the need and then work together. First of all, identify whether you really want to be a manager
Mm-hmm.
of a team, and then really find the right place to start with. And the right place might be that you start not being officially a manager or leader, but you get more into a role or into a certain task that I would hand over to someone to say, now let's do this, and you take over this part of the work and you manage the team with that. And with that, you see whether this fits to your needs and this is really what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then help the team. And that's also what I try to do is if there is someone who wants to be a manager, but there's no place in my team, I obviously would talk to my network and see whether I can help and
Mm-hmm.
rather like to keep the people within our company than
Sure.
that they move out. It's hard to get good leaders and product managers as well.
Sure. And I think you bring up a great point about training and preparation, I think too often we think of leadership as this innate ability. And the truth is, or would you agree that you can learn a lot about what it takes to be a good leader, and bigger organizations have opportunities for you to do that. And even outside of your company, there are probably opportunities for coaching or training or something that can help you develop yourself into a leader.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you think you take a product management course, think about you take some course that helps you to become a leader or a manager.
Yeah.
That's absolutely required, and it's always good to learn, in my view. Another thing is every company has kind of their own culture. So just look as well, if you're an aspiring leader, look at other leaders in your organization and see what you think they do well and what you think they do not so well, because you can really use it as well for your learning.
Yeah, that is a great point, Timo. Identifying people that you respect, kind of dissecting, figuring out what it is you like, and then on the other side, things that you don't like, and letting that inform your leadership style or your leadership path. That is great.
And also think about it. If you don't like it, is it because of the person, or is it because there is a reason behind it you might not see yet?
Yeah.
Let's think really a bit further. Maybe apply some systems thinking here,
Mm-hmm.
and think about, you see this, but what's the reason behind? What are the, and if you don't know, just ask. It's always good to also just to talk to people.
Yeah. So I listened to a podcast recently that broached this topic of, not leadership, but followship, which I thought was really cool. And I'm sure people will be watching this video that, may not become a product leader in the next few months. You have experience leading teams, and what is something that people can do to be a good follower, to be a good team leader, to help support their leadership? Does something specific come to mind?
I think very specific on this one would be, again, apply the system thinking. So try to understand as deep as possible. So what's the vision and strategy of my leadership?
Mm-hmm.
What do they think about? What is their success measures?
Mm-hmm.
And really think about all of this in detail, and then in your area help your leaders to reach these goals,
Yeah.
unless you totally disagree, and then speak up, talk to your leaders whether you get it wrong or you have a different opinion, and I'm pretty sure they would appreciate a different and honest view.
Yeah. Very nice. Uh, I am curious about the feedback loop in leadership. I think in any role, feedback is critical to grow. I'm wondering how you get feedback on your leadership. And can you think of things that you have changed based on feedback that you've gotten?
Yeah, okay, so first of all, so we get at SAP, we have called unfiltered surveys, and which we have 3 times a year, where we get from the employees direct feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a quite good participation rate.
Mm-hmm.
So which gives you already a glimpse, not just about the team, but also about your leadership style
Mm-hmm.
and where to improve. And particularly at the beginning of my career, I was not communicating enough. It was very clear. And I also talked to my team, and we have other team meetings where I ask for feedback. But honestly, this works for some people, for some uh, persons at the end, but others are not that outspoken. They would never speak up if I ask for give me feedback.
Sure.
But therefore, I really like this unfiltered survey, which is anonymous, and gives you more insights as well. So, but on the communication piece, sometimes I was, and I learned that over the time. Hopefully, my team would agree to that. That I did as a leader, you cannot over communicate, in my view. You should,
Yeah.
because there's so many things happening, and just because you have said once or twice doesn't mean everyone has heard it or have understood the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, that's
And there's,
great.
as the saying goes, if you start boring yourself, people understand. So
Okay, that's interesting, and that is, kind of another theme that we're uncovering in that exact phrase is that you cannot over communicate as a leader.
I don't think, I don't think so. And what I did wrong, I think, and I learned after time is I communicated, and if you then have 2 weeks, 4 weeks radio silence, lots of things happen, right?
Hmm.
And if you don't give the updates, people are still moving in a direction you might not want them to move anymore.
Interesting.
So you
Yeah,
have to communicate whether it is product direction or success metrics or competition or whatever. You have to communicate.
great. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about leadership in different contexts. So you have been a leader at one of the biggest software companies in the world, and really the scale of SAP is impressive, overwhelming sometimes. I know you also have experience more in a startup context. And how would you compare and contrast, the demands of leadership and the approach to leadership in those, very different contexts?
Yeah, very good question. So actually, yeah, you're right. I started in a company. I didn't start my career at SAP. I started in a smaller company. And when I joined this company, I was the first PM in this company. I reported to the founder. We
Hmm.
were 30 people. So very dedicated. I would even call it agile team. Besides, the term agile wasn't really coined.
Hmm.
Um, and then I became a leader as we scaled the company up to 350 people when I left. And in between, we scaled to an office in Australia, to one in the US.
Hmm.
My manager, basically, as the founder of the company, he couldn't be the product person anymore. So I became the product leader there. And the main difference is because the company still, compared to SAP, was really small.
Hmm.
Um, we all didn't know what's the role. Our culture was, there were one culture. At a company like SAP, there is many different cultures.
Hmm.
There's many different styles, many different values. While in the startup, the dedication on our product was 100%. It was clear that who is responsible for what. We could name the people, not the department.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so this is a different in leadership style. Plus, obviously, if you report to the founder of the company, that's a different story on its own.
Sure. Yeah, interesting. So there are significant differences, and you have to adjust your style. And it sounds like, and I think I would expect this, that in this much more complex, larger political environment, that it takes a different set of skills to be successful as part of this big machine.
It takes a different set. I would say maybe not different, but additional set.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
There's still some pieces, or most, I think, which is the same. It's still about product and product management and being successful.
Hmm.
However, as you said, things coming at scale that is hard to believe if you're not part of it. Um, that that you need obviously also to work a lot on your network as well,
Yeah, that makes
right?
sense.
It's in all big organizations. It's about building trust.
Yeah.
And it's about a positive way, not like networks and in a negative way, but really in a positive way, because
Hmm.
then really it gets easier to get something moving.
Yeah. Yeah, great insight. I would like to end on a bit of a lighter question, and that is, as a leader, you're not doing the same things as you were as a product manager. I think you can make the argument as an individual contributor, uh, there's less deferred satisfaction. There are more kind of concrete things that you do. You see the results. As a leader, I think it takes more time. The results are maybe a little less nebulous. Do you miss some of that immediate gratification of being an individual contributor? And if you do, are there things you're doing in your role now to kind of get your fix, to still do some of those product things that give you that more immediate reward?
Yeah. So first answer, yes, I miss being a product manager. Um, so what I do is I take basically two approaches. One approach is I try to be close to the team in some areas, not getting too much involved in the decisions, but just have the feeling being part of the team. And
Hmm.
in a workshop with customers, with engineering teams, talking about mockups, whatever. But
Hmm.
I'm not being the manager who dictates this is the decision, but just be part of the team.
Hmm.
Which has two things. I feel better and I learn a lot about the team.
Yeah.
Second is I basically started my own startup building a product
Yeah, there you go.
because I want to be a product manager.
Yeah. I think that's great, Timo. There's, a lot of people now doing what they call side hustle. And would you agree, even if it's not something you take to market, I think you're intending to take yours to market, but that is a way to get this more kind of, maybe even for a product manager, breadth in terms of what you have to do, because, there's probably a broader range of demands on you. You can't specialize the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, you get this kind of immediate reward. I think that's great. I usually give that advice to PMs, but I guess it makes a lot of sense for leaders as well to kind of keep the scent, keep the, those
Yeah,
muscles in
you
shape.
need to. It's easy. In my view, you really need to. You need to go Gemba. You need to be part of it. Um, Otherwise, after some time, you forget about how hard certain things are if you do it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great.
Finding the best approach to solve a certain customer problem, you cannot dictate this has to be done in 4 weeks or 2 weeks or tomorrow.
Hmm.
Sometimes you need to iterate, and if you forget about this if you're not being part of it.
Yeah, that is an excellent point, Timo. I think great guidance to anybody aspiring to be a leader who is a leader, that having some outlet, some kind of side hustle that brings you back and reminds you what it's like to experience that kind of, day-to-day product management stuff is great. I really appreciate you're taking time to talk to us today. A lot of great insight, a lot of great guidance for folks who, yeah, are thinking about getting into leadership, and I guess some nice insight for people who are already doing it. Thanks so much, Timo.
Thanks, Greg.